إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد عباد الله اعلموا أن أصدق الحديث كلام الله وخير الهدي هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار حفظني الله وإياكم من النار. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We praise Him, we seek His help, and we ask for His forgiveness. Whomever Allah guides, no one can lead astray. And whomever leads astray, no one can guide. We bear witness that no one has the right to be worshipped but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and He has no partner. And Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam is His servant and messenger. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His prayers upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all those who follow him till the day of judgment. Amma ba'd, ikhwat al-iman. Usikum wa nafsi bi taqwallah. Sisters in Islam, I advise myself as well as you to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa nas'aluhu subhanahu wa ta'ala an yaj'alana min ahli at-tuqa. And we beg him to make us among the pious ones. فبعد ذلك عباد الله يقول الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وقضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا. Brothers and sisters, Allah said in the Quran that He decreed no one should be worshipped but Him, which is the meaning of La ilaha illallah, La ma'buda bihaqqin illallah. No worship will benefit a person except when the person worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. That is what Allah subhanahu decreed, and it means that is the only worship that will benefit the person. That is the only worship that can save a person from the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the only worship that can grant the person a reward. That's the only worship that can lead the person to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is Al-Jannah. After completing that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And it's atf. They have to be together. They have to be together. You worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you establish kindness to your parents. Establish kindness to your parents. Maybe I will approach this in a different way. I'll give you a story. Because we always focus on, yes, you know that parents, they have a lot of benefits from the beginning of our story to the end of it. But Al-Islam daiman dinun wasat. The religion of Islam, you have to understand, is not in our hands. It's in the hands of Allah. Based on the teachings of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. And it's a religion that will always be in the middle. If you have to do something, you must do it. But you have to do it as it was prescribed in the deen. You cannot go extreme. You cannot find your own way. You have to follow. And you cannot neglect also what you have to do. That's the reason why we have to understand that, so no one will implement that on their own way. Umar radiallahu anhu, one day, جاءه رجل فقال له يا أمير المؤمنين إن ابني يعقني. A man came to Umar, the Khalifatul Muslimin. He said, Ya Umar, I brought a complaint. My son is not kind to me. He's so bad to me. That's a complaint. That's the highest authority, the Khalifa. Umar istada'a al-walad. Umar, he called the son to listen from the son. He asked him, he said, Inna abaka yashtakika alay. Your father is complaining against you, has a complaint against you. I want to hear your story. I want to hear you. He said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, ma haqqi ala walidi. He said, Umar, do I have rights over my father? Of course, he's asking the one who knows the rights, the one who learned from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, yes, you have rights. Laka alayhi huquq. You have rights over him. One, he said, an yu'allimaka al-Quran. You have rights over him to teach you the Quran. Wa yakhtara lak umman salihah. He should also pick a good mother for you. وَأَنْ يَخْتَارَ لَكَ إِسْمًا. And he should pick a good name for you. Umar said that the son replied, he said, أَمَّا الْقُرْآنِ فَلَمْ يُعَلِّمْنِي مِنْهُ شَيْءٍ. As for the Quran, my father never taught me the Quran. Never. He didn't teach me anything from the Quran. He said, Amma ummi fa'ama. My mother is a servant. Is a servant. And we know the rulings of the servant. And he said, فَأَمَّا اسْمِي فَجُعَيْرٌ is the worst name you can give a person. Is that small animal that always follow the trash. Always. You don't want to have that name. Umar looked at the father. He said, فَقَدْ عَقَقْتَهُ وَصَغِيرٌ فَعَاقَكَ وَهُوَ أَنْتَ وَهُوَ كَبِيرٌ. He said, you have disrespected him. You have neglected his rights. You are not kind to fulfill your rights when he was young. Now he's old. He is doing the same thing to you. كَمَا تَدِينُ تُدَانُ. So then we know that the father has the right to be respected by the son. للأب حقوق أو حق أن يحترمه أولاده أو بناته يقدروه. The father has the right, but in Islam everything has to go in order. If you miss that, you might have some trouble, and that might bring conflict between the father and the son, and it's going to be hard to understand because everything has an asl. Everything has an asl. So we talked about in the Quran birr al-walidain, to be kind, to be nice to your parents. That is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also it's a ni'mah, it's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Living between your parents is a blessing. Living with one of them is a blessing. That's the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, be kind and nice to them. But if you want that, you also have to give, then you take. You give and then you take. If you are not kind, the reason why I want to bring this, because some people, they think, or we think that because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, the son has no rights, the daughter has no rights. You have to be screaming day and night, yelling day and night, then you expect them to be kind and nice to you. We have to be realistic. Then you expect them to be kind and nice to you. إِذَا قَدَّمْتَ مَعْرُوفًا تَسْتَقْبِلْ مَعْرُوفًا. If you are kind, if you are nice to them, and we'll سوف نؤصل هذا الشيء في الدين. If you are kind to them, if you are nice to them, if you are not harsh on them, naturally they will try to pay back the kindness that you have given to them. The Prophet ﷺ, that is the way he raised his children. He came in a society who were very harsh against their children, very tough against their children. You have to obey, you have to follow, and you have to make sure that you don't have any opinion with your father, with your mother. The Prophet ﷺ, and no, you don't offer any emotional support to your children at that time. It's just tough. The Prophet ﷺ, he changed that. He changed the relationship between the parents and their children, the parents and their sons and their daughters. And the Prophet ﷺ, one day was sitting, and one of his grandson came and sat next to him. He kissed him. He kissed him while he was attending some guest. And this guest, he kind of disliked what the Prophet did. He said, أَتُقَبِّلُونَ أَوْلَادَكُمْ? Do you kiss your sons? You see, that is representing what was known. Do you kiss your children? The Prophet looked at him. He said, do you have? He said, Wallahi, I have 10 boys. I have never ever kissed any one of them. Out of pride. No, this is not me. This is not us. We don't do this. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, it's as if Allah has removed mercy from your heart. Subhanallah. So he's changing these people. He's telling them, you have to have that connection, that emotional connection between you and your children. They grow up with that. They get used to it. They think about you. And they remember the good things. And when they remember those good things, it's easy for them to offer the good things. But if you're harsh and tough, they grow up with that, and they think about that, they remember those things. Even if they want to do it, it's hard for them to do it. It's hard for them to do it. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, if you have 2 daughters, you raise them in a nice way, in a kind way. He said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, till they grow up. He said, you and me are going to be in Jannah. Our levels are going to be like this. That person is going to be very, very, very close to me. Then a father should offer good from the get-go, from the beginning. So the child will grow up with that. But how many times you sit with a child who rebel against their parents, or one of them, and you try to find out what is going on. And I'm talking about in this society. I'm not going to give a society another society. They will tell you, oh, my father actually doesn't pray. Because I came from the deen perspective. But they'll tell you, actually my father doesn't pray. Okay? You want your child to be good, and you know that Salah al-Waqt راحة للأبناء راحة للآباء في المستقبل. If the children are righteous, are good, that brings comfort, that brings happiness to the parents when the children are grown. And the opposite is the opposite. If they are not, then you have to deal with it. And they'll tell you, my father doesn't pray. And they will go over there, they will tell you, oh, my father always backbites and talk about people. And they will keep going and going and going. Where are they learning from? They're learning from the first school. They're learning from the first school, which is the house. Okay, I have to fix this. When the imam sits, don't worry, okay, I'm just going to say this so everybody can learn about it. Because the other day I saw somebody also doing it. Okay, you're going to get the reward. If the imam sits and says, Assalamu alaikum, you cannot eat, you cannot drink. Al-Jumhur. In Madhab Malikiyah, if you make a wudu, come into the masjid, you cannot eat or drink till after the Jumu'ah. Okay, so that's a ma'luma. So, Jazakallah khair for doing that so we can learn from it. Good. Where was I? About the fathers. The fathers should be kind and nice to their children. And we have an issue of, in our society, we have parents sometimes focus on the goodness on their children, but they don't focus on the goodness on themselves. That is very important. That is very, very important. Every father wants their child to be nice, to be kind, to be righteous, to be successful. Show them the good akhlaq. Show them the good manners. If you show them the good manners, Allah will pick it up. They'll pick up some of it. And that will benefit them in the future. But if you show them don't think they don't watch. They watch and they're smart. They know what you do. They know what you do. And if they know what you do, they may not like it, but they cannot fix you. They know that. They cannot fix you. But one day, if they pick up one character from your characters, and you want to tell them, this is not good, they will look at you, they won't say anything. They will just look at you, and if you are smart, you'll understand exactly what they say. You'll understand they're responding to you. How dare you telling me not to do it? And you have been doing it for this whole entire time, and you do not want me to do it. I'll give an example. I'm not giving a ruling. If a father smokes and the son smokes, I think it's fair. But you want to smoke, you don't want your son to smoke, that'll become like a problem. I'm not trying to offend people who smoke, okay? I'm not giving a ruling here. But I'm just giving an example, and that's a close example to me. If a father smokes and the son smokes, and the father wants the son not to smoke, I think it's a big battle. I think it's going to be very, very tough. Because, okay, I think it's good. And you try to tell them, no, I am doing it, but it's not good. That is going to be very contradicting. لا تنهى عن خلق ثم تأتي به. Do not tell them not to do it, and you do it. And this can be an example in every or most of the things. If a father doesn't pray and they want their son to pray, it's going to be a problem, and so forth. If the father has a bad language and they don't want their son to use that, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. So the father has to be an example. If the father becomes a good example, then the son will look at it and say, my father is so good. It's just I choose not to do what he's doing. Yes, from here, we can start having a ground that we can tell the child, okay, we know you're doing something wrong, your father is doing something good, your mother is doing the same thing, then we can start talking to this child, and everything you say will make sense to them. Will be something to understand even if they don't do it now, but later on they can do it. But they're very good in we are very good in finding excuses. But if you don't put any excuse for them, inshallah ta'ala, and you make a dua for them, regardless what they're doing, but they will be good, inshallah ta'ala. But the children, we should understand that being with our parents is a blessing. Being with our parents is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are some people who want that they don't have it. There are people, before they were born, their parents died, or one of their parents died. And the best example is Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. His father died before he was born alayhi salatu wasalam. His mother died when he was in a young age alayhi salatu wasalam. Everybody who goes through it will miss them. And if they die, regardless what your age is, but you will still miss them. So those who have them, that's why the Prophet ﷺ, he said, رَغِمَ أَنْفُ رَجُلٍ أَدْرَكَ وَالِدَيْهِ وَأَحْمَا حَيْ وَلَمْ يَدْخُلِ الْجَنَّةِ. The Prophet ﷺ said, an unlucky person who lived with both of his parents or one of them and they did not go Jannah. That is not the reason for them to go to Jannah. Then you be kind, be nice to your parents. When you speak to them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. These are teachings and commands from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If your father is good, because there's something called عقوق الوالدين على أولادهم وعقوق الأولاد على والديهم. Being unjust and unkind on your parents, and also being unjust and unkind on your children. And when that happens, you will find a fight. And I can tell you, most of the times, الذي يتولى كبره الأب. Most of the times, the source of these problems comes from the father, because the child become confused of what they should do. But if the father is doing so good, if the mother is doing so good, it's easy for the child to understand exactly, I'm wrong, and they can admit that they're wrong, even though they will rebel against you, but they still understand that I am wrong. And you still have the ground to continue advising them and talking to them. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, Sahabi came to him and he said, Ya Rasulullah, man ahaqqun nasi bihusni suhbati. Who deserve my kindness the most? Now we find ourselves being very nice and kind to the brothers and the sisters when we are outside, and we are unable to bring those kindness to the people who deserve it the most. The people who deserve it the most in our deen, the Prophet ﷺ, he said to this person, ummuk, your mother, regardless. Your mother deserves your kindness the most. If there's anyone who you should be kind to, your mother should be the first. And he said, thumma man? He said, thumma ummuk. Then who should be the next? He said, your mother again. Then who? He said, your mother again 3 times. 3 times. Then the 4th time he said, abuk, your father. We should not mix those things based on how we like to do things. We should follow the deen in everything that the deen is teaching us as children. And you will always be a child, even if you're 100 years, if your father or your mother is alive. That doesn't change because you are grown. No, that stays because you cannot flip it. They will be your parents forever. So then you have to be kind and nice. If you do that, bi'idhnillah, tawaqqa', it's hopeful that inshallah ta'ala your children are going to be kind and nice to you. The mothers, we should be special. We should be kind to them. And this applies on the mothers who are alive with us and the mothers who are not alive. It's the same. The Prophet ﷺ used to say, if you want to offer kindness to one of your parents or to both of them, and you don't see them, find people who used to make them happy. Their friends, people who used to be around them. Offer that kindness to them. That is considered being kind to your parents while they are alive. Remembering them. Saying that if they were here, I will do this, and I will do it to the people who used to be their best friend or their close people to them. So let's try our best to make sure that we as fathers, we give examples. We watch what we say and how we treat them and how we treat others when they're around. Those are messages that we're sending with our actions. Sometimes you find conflict between two parents, or two parents are divorced, they are not together anymore. And the children will see terrible acts between those two parents. And sometimes the children can be used against one another, and they're innocent. They're innocent. You have to be honest and just in everything that you do, especially with your children. You cannot do something to gain something based on wrong things. You cannot. Even if you gain it today, tomorrow you will lose it. Tomorrow you will lose it, because ما بني على الباطل باطل والباطل يبطل. Everything that you gain based upon wrong, that is wrong. And wrong doesn't stay. الحق أبلج. The truth stays and rise. والباطل لجلج. And the falsehood, the wrong, goes down. It doesn't stand. It doesn't stand long. Then brothers and sisters, whatever you do, make sure you do it in goodness. And the fathers, let us be good examples to our children. And the children, let them know that they cannot have anything better than us as fathers. And we should create that relationship, that advice, that love, that connection that is based upon the teachings of Islam. If we do, inshallah ta'ala, we'll be kind to them when they were young, and they will kind to us when they're old, inshallah ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه الغفور الرحيم. اللهم أنت ربي لا إله إلا أنت خلقتني وأنا عبدك وأنا على عهدك وعهدك ما استطعت وبك من شر ما صنعت. أبو لك بنعمتك علي وأبو بذنبي لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أما بعد. For the children, let us work to implement the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, regardless how our parents are. Let us implement the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on our parents. When you speak to your parents, be kind and be nice. When you deal with them, be kind and be nice. When they want to do something, don't look at their mistakes, inshallah. Try your best to avoid their mistakes. They're human beings. They're going to be making mistakes. But you do not want to make mistakes because they made a mistake. Try to be smart. Try to make sure that I will hold myself accountable. When I deal with them, I will hold myself accountable, because what you do or what you could do is what you're responsible for. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask you about those things. They are sins. They are sins to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then try. You might have more knowledge than your father. You might have more wealth than your father. You might be smarter than your father. You might be. But you will always be the son. You will always be the daughter. Then be a son and be a daughter all the time. Yes, You will find some very hard-headed fathers. You just have to sometimes find a very kind fight. Have you ever heard this? Kind fight? Yes. Try to find a kind fight. Because sometimes you know this is good for my parents. This is the best. There's nothing. And what they do is terrible for themselves. That is really terrible for themselves. You have to launch a fight here. You have to. Because are you going to be nice and let them do what is hurting them? No. Then you have to find a very nice fight. A very kind fight. Even if you have to stand in front of them and say, that's it, this way, stand, and that's it. And they may see that very disrespectful, but no, you are not. You are trying to do something that will preserve their goodness, and you are responsible for that. So these things, they're very complex. Ashya mu'aqqada. But you're responsible because everything comes from the heart. Why are you doing what you're doing? But you cannot say bad. You cannot do bad knowing that this is bad in your heart. But if you know this is good, it might be harsh. But you know that you're doing something good. Then let us try as children to be kind and nice to our parents. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, when they get in old age, very difficult to deal with them, be more kind to them. Be more nice to them. So, if they are not alive anymore and you're older, please make a dua for them. We have seen people who will say, Rabbi irhamhuma kama rabbani saghira, every prayer. Whenever they finish their prayer, they do the adhkar, they repeat the dua. That is a connection between you and your parents who died. So try not to forget your parents. Try to be kind to them. If you're living with them, try to reconnect with them. Try to make sure that they hear from you. That is al-bir. But if you don't do that, let's consider al-uquq. And uquq, or the sin of your uquq is great to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for those who have their parents with them, to grant them the ease to have al-bir on them. And for those who lost their parents, we ask Allah to forgive them. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to let them make a dua for them. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive our shortcomings against our parents. And may Allah forgive the parents' shortcomings against their children. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reunite all of us with our parents in Jannah. في مقعد الصدق عند مليك مقتدر. قم الصلاة يرحمكم الله.